Hey everybody, my name is Aaron Shane, and welcome to Habitat Now. I'm joined by the founder of Habitat Galleries, Ferdinand Hampson, to be discussing this auction we're having today that is hosted on our Masterworks auction site as well as Live Auctioneers. For those that you don't know, we launched our own auction site a couple, maybe earlier last year, for those who like to pay less when they buy stuff because the premiums are less because we're in more control. So if you haven't seen the Live Auctioneers or the Masterworks site, go to our website. I'll show you how to do it to get there. And that's where the auction is going to be after this Zoom ends. We'll end the Zoom whenever it ends. And then at 2:15, make sure you're on the Masterworks site to place your bids. Many of you have contacted me early to place your silent bids and phone bids. Those are all organized now, so expect to be contacted or expect your bids to go in. So without further ado, a little housekeeping. So I'm going to remember how to Zoom. It's been a little bit for me, but I'll kick back in and show you what's going on here at Habitat because it's going to be an exciting end of the year and an exciting next year. So thank you all for joining me. We continue doing these Zooms every single Saturday. We have new things in process, which we'll be discussing, new ideas to expose more and more clients to what we know and love. So Corey Hampson, my brother, is down at Scope Miami right now. If you're in Miami and you want to go see him and want to go see the show, it's a spectacular show. I heard there's so many people there. It's an incredible experience. I have some tickets left over. If you happen to be down in Miami, just send me a note. I'll send one your way. We're grateful for his time down there. It's going to be a great experience trying to find new people and expose them to what we know and love. If you haven't been in the gallery, we have the Masquerade exhibition still up. The Susan Taylor Glasgow's Let's Fall in Love. It's a very powerful exhibition. We have a catalog, a digital catalog going out next week, and a walkthrough to see the pieces. The show has been doing really well, and she is such an amazing artist and such a charm to be around. I love her work. Hope you have a chance to come see it. The glass tour next year is getting filled up. If you haven't done one of these, you got to do it. You go on a cruise ship with Ferdinand and Kathy Hampson, port to port, looking at museums and collections and galleries. It's an incredible time. They've been planning these trips since the early 90s, so everything is thought of. You'll have a blast. Talk to anybody that's been on one. You should definitely go. And then now we're gearing up for Glass Coast Weekend in Sarasota. People are signing up. It's going to be so much fun in early February. You're invited. Honored guests, Gugelsberg and Baldwin are going to be there. They have a solo show. We have another Masterworks auction. There's a couple preview pieces from that auction. It's beautiful, Big Zinski and a Robin Greeby. But we're going to go see. We have a demonstration by John Kiley. This wonderful display of Pate Ver shoes by an artist you've never heard of named Dory Settles. That each shoe is made. It's going to be on display. Unbelievable. And then we're going to go to the Dali for the 360 experience inside one of these crazy domes you keep reading about and seeing. I think they have one in Vegas on top of all these other events. And Barbara Bash's artist, we're going to have a first ever. It's called the Fireworks Soiree, celebrating Barbara Bash and her late husband, Richard. There's so many things. If you haven't seen this trip yet, come and visit. Send me a note. I'll send you the invitation. People are signing up. It's going to be an incredible time down in Sarasota. All right, so on to the Masterworks auction. Let's get into it. And Ferd's here. Thank you for joining me, Ferd. It's great to have you.
Sure, thank you.
So if you haven't been to our auction sites on our website, just click on the top here in this little red circle I made. It's amazing technology I can draw. You click that and go to the View Auctions button, and you can take right to the Masterworks site. They're always located on this web page, so it's easy to find and sign up for and check out. There's 41 pieces in this auction. And then we're also offering out a couple experiences. So we're adding tickets for people who don't know us to come to Glass Coast Weekend. So we'll see what happens because Live Auctioneers requires a minimum of 50 pieces. So why not put some fun stuff in there anyway? So first piece, we have a wall-mounted piece by artist Tim Tate. And this piece is really has a great title called My Love Life So Far. And we took a video of what the video does inside of this piece, and it mounts on a wall and sits in this cylinder kind of shape with a video inside of it. Very fun Tim Tate work, and I'll play the video for you now if I can get this thing to work and hopefully mute the audio. So you can kind of get an idea when it boots up and plugs in, it's a building falling down and coming back up, representing his love life at the time when he made this in the early 2000s. So we wanted to make sure to thoroughly test this Tim Tate sculpture to make sure they work, before it works before we put it at auction. And we reached out to Tim to make sure, but you get some details of it. And yeah, we wired it all up and it just plugs in and then you're good to go. It mounts to the wall and you're able to see the actual video. Regina took a closer video of the building falling down and coming back up. And Tim did a lot of these videos earlier in his career, and when he was with us at Habitat, we had some of the pieces. I played around with this technology too. It's a lot of fun. So if you're thinking about a Tim Tate, that's a great piece to think about. And skip to the next slide. All right. These are incredible works by artist Peter Hora. They're maquettes from his large sculptures he created during his entire career. We had some of these for sale down at the Hampson Gallery down in St. Petersburg, and we put two in the auction. We have a beautiful piece that's of the purple amethyst color at 13 inches tall, so it's not as large as his normal larger scale works, but it is a wonderful piece by one of the masters in casting glass. What do you say, Ferd? He's been casting glass for probably 40, 38 years now.
Yeah, at least. Yeah, well, he was blowing glass before that, so I'm not sure when the transition occurred. But this piece is pretty interesting because as you turn it around, it'll actually seem like it's blue as opposed to this beautiful amethyst color. And it's created by making it thinner and thicker in different areas, which he's like a master at doing that.
Yeah, I think so. I think I have a photo of it. I'll drag on that screen for what you're talking about. Let me pull it up real quick. You can kind of see this is kind of a picture of it in our storage facility. You can kind of see the thickness and the thinness of the actual piece, but it is a beautiful work. So, all right, let's kick back into the auction. Thank you for. How about this piece? I love this work. This is Jason Travackerty's sculpture of these wonderful astronauts. And it is a smaller piece. It's only 14 inches tall. It's a little over a foot. But once you get closer to it and see the detail, I just love this one. And Jason and his wife Jennifer create these wonderful, uplifting pieces. Pieces by the water. Sometimes they make lifesavers. And the octopuses they've been up to lately. But I thought this was really, really fun. The detail and the creativity to come up with these spacemen. And it's called et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not sure what that means, but you can come to your own conclusions. Jose Chartier. So we had some replacement pieces in the auction. So as we dive into the auction world more, we've learned a lot of our clients like to leave their auction pieces here. And sometimes we think they're still available and we put them in auction. And someone says, "Oh, no, I own that piece." And we're like, "Why is it still here?" So this, I believe, was a Halava piece when the auction went up, but quickly replaced it with this more impressive and incredible Jose Chartier blown work called Yellow and Blue Drum Bass. And you can see on the side these relics like bugs or masks that have been carved into the side of the work. Ferd, can you tell me a little about this body of work? Maybe you know more.
Yes, it's a precursor to his table pieces, but he always had an infatuation with ancient or uh, art that was primitive. And so consequently, this was the beginning of that idea that he still carries through with his work today.
Thank you, Ferd. Yeah, I haven't seen many like this before, and it's quite beautiful. It's quite large at 19 inches tall, so bigger than I can do on your screen, so get the idea. Had a lot of desire lately for work by Thurman Statham. I'm a big fan of Thurman's work. I have a piece in my home. It's the only piece I have up because of my children's domicile is full of toys and destruction. So this piece is about 16 inches wide and tall. Lots of
Yeah.
fun stuff. He has abstract
Very,
pieces thrown in there.
yeah, very active. I love his work when it's part painting and then part objects, and integrating the two together makes it like a three-dimensional painting. I'm actually looking at one right now that I have in my study that's about 5 feet by 4 feet, and it has those elements. I love it.
That's a sales pitch for you. Both art dealers have one close by every day. So easy for you to decide and have some bids already online. So check it out. Doug Anderson, maybe you can tell us about this one, Ferd.
Well, Doug Anderson was about the first person to bring Pâte de Verre into the forefront in studio glass. And this is a really good example. And part of the reason is anything from the Belkin collection, Mike and Ann Belkin, they're generally pretty sensational pieces. And this is no exception. what's the date on this? 1992. Very early on. What's interesting is in this auction, there's a tremendous number of pieces from 1992 to 1994, especially a lot from 1993. So it's like a 30-year-old auction to a large degree.
Perfect. That's what we want too.
Yeah.
I love this little piece. Latches or Boyaja, before he did a lot of his castings, he had fun with optical glass earlier in his career. And we actually released a Habitat Limited that was an homage of that piece not too long ago. And it's 19 and a half inches tall, very, very beautiful, and from a private collection in Florida. Very substantial body of this work. And usually he mixed a lot more colors in these particular structures I've seen in the past. But this was a little more simple, having a little bit of red and blue, and it's just a beautiful piece.
Very large scale too for that series.
Yeah, 19 and a half, 19 and a half. Celebrating with Susan Taylor Glasgow's show that's up downstairs at the gallery. You're welcome to come see. We have this beautiful chalice cup celebrating everything feminine. And if you know anything about her work, she is always celebrating femininity and creating work with her seamstress background. So this work incorporates glass and ribbon, and this piece is called Morning Sky Chalice Vessel, and she has some writing on top that says "Fashioned for Beauty," and it's quite big at 26 inches tall, but it will definitely catch anybody's eye as you walk into a room. So another replacement piece. This is an interesting piece by an artist I couldn't find much about. Mitsa Asaka. I think it was made at Penland and maybe purchased at one of their auctions or one of their events back in '89. So in my Googling, I couldn't find it much at all. And so either the artist decided to leave glass or change into a different medium or just disappear entirely. But I thought it was very beautiful. Ferd, you ever heard this artist's name?
No.
Making
I
sure.
was hoping to learn something from you
Yeah.
about it, but what is extraordinary is how beautifully cut it is. She has a lot of imagery in there, some of it quite liberal, some of it is symbols, and a really great example of carving into glass.
Yeah, the technique. So in the notes, it said it was an exotic hallway, which is what I put into the writing in the auction. But it's called Peacock Paradise, and it 21 inches tall and 19 inches wide, 7 inches deep. It's like a cove that you're looking into, and you light it from behind, and it really glows like it sees in the photo. You can see etching on the outside too. It is a wonderful work, and maybe we'll find
Yeah,
more in the future. Paul Nelson, a big fan of Paul's work. I used to see him at SOFA. Amazing bust maker. He did some homage pieces to Harvey Littleton and Dale Chihuly you've seen around. And this is just a medieval queen, beautiful, tall sculpture. The whole it includes a pedestal you can kind of see here, but if you look online, you can see the whole pedestal. And the
I
glass
think
structure is pretty large as well.
he's kind of the most underrated artist. I've said this before,
Mhm.
because he is brilliant at casting. Look at that face, the details in it, and even the pedestal itself is very unique, made specifically for this piece, and you can even see the wheels on the bottom of it, which is pretty interesting. He's a very, very impressive piece.
Yes, thanks, Fred. Many of you are familiar with Richard Marquis, one of the godfathers of glass, uh, master of Marini. And I think he's still working today. He comes out of retirement every now and then. He was working with Nick Mount for a little bit, doing collaborative work. But these are very fun. I always wanted to get a marble by him, and I managed to acquire one in my lifetime, which I sit by. And there's three of them on display at the Henry Ford Museum of American Innovation. He's well known for his teapots, but these are more inexpensive examples. I believe the
These are
Noble Effort has a funny story, doesn't it, Ferd?
Yeah, yeah. This was he'd set up a studio because so many of the other artists working in California were doing like Tiffany type work, and they were making a lot of money. And so he decided he was going to do a line of work, of production work. but he's too damn creative to do that. So consequently, every piece came out different and came out absolutely wonderful. Nobody was doing these canes, and he, kind of as a throwback to some of Baccarat's early cane work, but he learned this in Italy and brought it back to this country. And he went to Pentland and he said, "Boys, I got something to show you."
Mhm.
And he showed them how to work with canes.
That's great. Yeah, this is two pieces. One is the bell, the elephant piece, and the other piece is kind of a little stone structure, but it has all the Marini. It's what he's well known for.
Yeah.
Another piece by Susan Taylor Glasgow. This is a very fun piece called Pocket. It is a wall-mounted glass apron. So the bottom of it is glass. I believe the top is a material, and it mounts on the wall. And they're very eye-pleasing pieces. We've had one of these in a previous auction that sold, and they're quite big too. It's 22 by 26. You'll have a real
Wow.
substantial piece for a great price. This is the other Peter Hora maquette piece called Emerald, homaging another piece that he's done in the past. Beautiful, beautiful color and tone. You can see that there's really, he's one of the best I've ever seen who does casting in glass because he's been doing it, say, for, I would say, 38 years or whatever it was.
Yeah, he does it in a very precise way, but he uses that same thing of having thicker and thinner glass, creating this illusion of light coming from the interior. Lubinsky's do that, but their forms are considerably different, much more rougher feeling. Uh, but this is a beautiful example of his work.
And Peter Hora made Ferd a gift for the 50 or 40 years of the gallery, a Habitat logo in glass. If you've ever seen it, it's quite amazing. Ferd and Kathy have it in their house, and then we use it every now and then for our logo. It's the actual piece photographed. It's very, very cool.
Yeah.
Bertil Wallin from Sweden. Many of you are familiar with his work, and one of his most well-known forms is the boat. And what's interesting about this one in my particular mind is usually the fronts of his boats are usually clear glass, representing the future of unknown. But this particular boat actually has two options. You can display it horizontally like this, or we have a vertical stand that comes with it. We didn't photograph it with the vertical stand because it's a little bit wonky. We'll provide the stand to the winner. Maybe they can tweak it if they choose to use it. But it's a beautiful example of the work with all the visuals of the humanoids and the caskets and the map, the X's, lots of details that the artist is well known.
The really unique thing about this piece, which is 40 inches long, is that it undulates. Most of his are very structured, but this one almost gives you the feeling of waves with the boat.
Yeah, I definitely see that. Always fun to explore these pieces. Leah Wingfield Find and Mellow. We had a Leah Wingfield older piece in our last auction. What series was this, Bird? What was it from?
Now this was a jazz series, but it was a very short-lived series. For a period of time, she was, I think, having so many ideas that she was making these series for shorter periods of time. And the jazz series, if I'm not mistaken, there's probably only 6 or 7 different sculptures that comprise that particular series.
Yeah, and we're honored to include this one in the show. I took a picture of it. This is the professional picture, right? You're seeing it when Dan Fox, our photographer, comes and shoots the work. And this is
Yep.
a raw photo with the light behind it showing you how amazing glass is, right? You have these tones and the visuals kind of popping with the light behind it, and it looks like an entirely different piece, but it is the
Yeah.
same one. And I wanted to kind of add that so people can get an idea. And we did a short video on it too, so you can kind of peruse around and see what the work looks like in person. And as
Yeah,
we
it's really neat because it's three-dimensional. It has a different image from both sides.
right, and as we continue doing these auctions, we'll be having a little more video when we have a chance. Our professional squad is Regina with a cell phone, but as the time goes by, we'll see what it comes up with. But you can really see, oh, look at the other side of the piece. They're facing away from each other. You didn't even know that without the video. You can see it signed. It is a beautiful work. Get a little glimpse of Habitat in the background too. Good enough. Let's skip to the next one. Great screen. Sorry about that. It is ping. Ping. All right. Alexis Silk, an artist that lives, I believe, in Murano now. We did a talk with her during maybe last year about her and her work and how her work is in such demand in Murano that she can barely get any back to the States. And they take her work and they sell it like mad to all the tourists that come to Murano. Which is the only female artist working in Murano at the scale that she works at, which is an incredible thing to achieve. We luckily have a piece, and it mounts in this uh, metal frame by those two hooks. And her talk was amazing. She lifts these incredible heavy pieces of glass and sculpts it on the end of a blowpipe, and it's quite a feat. And if you ever meet her and talk to her about her work, it's just incredible. See what she accomplishes and makes. And she's up there with all the other masters, and they work for her because you don't have a studio. You hire a studio, and they make work all day. And this is a piece that she must have made back in 2017. It's rare to have a piece this new at auction, but things pop up. Shelly Allen, many of you know her work. Her and Rick just finished a big giant octopus. Many of you seen on social media. I think it took them all their whole lifetime to finish this octopus, but it's on display now, I think somewhere in Seattle. I have to look up exactly where it's at. But this is an early on piece from '98 by Shelley. And earlier in her career, she did a lot of horses, uh, horse heads, horses mounted to the wall, unicorns, and she's only gotten better and better today and dabbled into more animals. But I've always been a big fan of her horses. And it's 13 and a half inches, 13 and 3/4 inches big. So it's quite a big, substantial piece. An easy piece to look at. It's very eye pleasing with the carving on the neck and the tones and the color. I love her work. This is a popular one. We've done a lot of these goblets that Jay Mustard made back in the 2000s and before. They always pop up at auction. They're usually pretty inexpensive, and they're very fun to look at, and they're just overall very eye pleasing. This particular one called Vine Goblet came in from another art gallery that was, I think they were deciding to close down and travel the world. So we said, sure, we'll take the piece in for the auction, no problem. And they've enjoyed it for a period of time in their own personal collection, and now it's time to let it go. So if you're looking for a Musser goblet, this would be the auction for you. David Hutchhausen, many of you know David's work. He's an incredible artist. I think one of the earliest to show here at Habatat, and he's still working today. He's been quite hot lately. I've talked to some other galleries around, and he's selling a lot of his work at retail, which is incredible. But this is your chance to get a piece at auction. And I really do enjoy this piece a lot because it has the bottom rawness that he did in much later work mixed with the coloring he's so well known for. And it's kind of a better size for some people who can't handle his larger scale work, being only 10 by 8 by 5.
It's the color on the top is meant to translate into color on the bottom, and you can see it if you blow it up. That's true with this piece, although it's not lit quite as effectively as it could be. He's using transparent and opaque glass at the top, and of course, the opaque glass does not go through, but you have an entirely different like color palette from the translucent glass that hits all that like chiseled area on the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. For Doug Randall, we had one of these in our last auction. These colorful vessel forms, I believe they're fused. Do you know anything about this artist, Ferg? Please tell me.
Yeah, they're beautiful. I've always admired his work, but I was more interested in sculpture. So I never did exhibit it, but I always did admire it. You know, they're just a wonderful thing to look at.
Yeah, they're very. We have this piece in the vault, and some people have come look at it live and in person, and the coloring is just so beautiful. Someone told me that no matter what's in their place, it won't match, but I love it. Right, right. Jonathan Schmuck, another artist that we've had at auction in the past, creating this wonderful snowboard style piece in homage of nature and probably his ancestry. So we've had some people who have asked about this artist in the past, and we want to incorporate, I think, one or two pieces in this auction. Richard Whiteley, an artist is what I've heard a lot about him. We had a solo show of his work that was on display, I think in Japan and came, or maybe Thailand and came to our gallery. We have his work. Beautiful cast glass pieces. This is an earlier piece of the artist's work, and it kind of leads into the homage of what he does now. His work is inspired by the human body now, and it can see the tubing in the glass and the visuals kind of reaching into the inside, which is probably an homage of what came later. So, Freddie, you want to tell us about this one?
Sure. This is from the Belkin collection, and it's really Stanislav Levinsky would love to go to Pilchuck, and he cast glass, and at that time, casting facilities were pretty rare in the country, and so this is a blown piece that he did at Pilchuck. These are very rare. I have seen three in all the works that I've seen of the Levinskys. So it's a great piece for a collection, particularly if it's a collection that features a lot of Levinskys, because this is so absolutely unique.
Thank you, Ferd. Yeah, I've seen two. So you're up on one above me. John Miller, he's an artist representing out of the Illinois area and a teacher. And, and I think he's on his way to his next kid right now between you and me, which is congratulations to him. He does homage work to fast food and the 50s and the lifestyle. And this work is called Last Night. It incorporates a cigarette lighter, matches, and pills and ash. Um, we've done really well with his work via the Habitat Limiteds in the past. He does the hamburger, the fries, and this thing's quite big. That lighter is 26 inches tall. So
Did you see that story of his about him? I think it was in the New York Times, was it?
yep, we had a New York Times article. Yeah, we shared it
Yeah,
on.
it's an extraordinary story about him and well deserved. I mean, he's been doing these amazing works. What's the date on this one?
2008.
2008. Yeah, he's been doing this for many, many years, since the 90s, I believe he started. And he deserves the kind of credit he's been getting lately.
Yeah, usually when people discover John's work, they fall in love and get a couple of them because it brightens any room and enhances the feeling. Novak Jr. piece. So this is an assemblage piece, and I think you've been to their studios, right? You've been to their studio before, right, Bird?
Many times. Yeah.
Many times.
Is this more
Falcon.
than one piece?
Yep, it's an assemblage piece, so it comes together
Do you know
to
how
create
many?
this one. I believe it's three or four pieces off the top of my head.
These are they balance together, and the amazing thing about his work is that he hand polishes everything to get that softness. Very, very, very unusual in glass to have that soft quality and in such a hard material. And he's brilliant at it. He's a Czech artist, and I believe is just starting to think about retirement. Last time I was at his studio, he didn't have a whole lot of new work.
Hmm. Yeah, we reached out to him to get the same result. This is
I
one
know.
of two in the auction. This will ship with the pieces separate and provide instructions for assemblage. Many of you are aware of Johnny Toso. He makes these incredible little lampwork figures. And he's in the past, you've seen his chess sets, and I believe there's a big one at Corning. There's like three huge sets and a bunch of smaller sets around. And this is just a single figure um, called Moyle, which was my favorite part of being a kid. But but it's just a single figurine by the artist, and usually everybody has to have one. I have one in my collection, but I don't think I'll have another right now because the one I have is missing its arms. So I have two He-Man arms growing on there right now until I have a chance to send it back to Johnny. But I love this little guy, and it's a very fun and uplifting piece. Another Jonathan Schmuck. This is called Black and White Vase. This came from the same collection. as the snowboard, 10 3/4 inches big, just a beautiful overall master of glass. Someone that somebody fell in love with, and we wanted to get an opportunity to share the work. Another Shelley Allen, a more well-known style piece. We have a piece similar to this in the gallery that was a collaboration between Shelley and Raven Sky River. And now I haven't confirmed that this was a collaboration too, but it is an all black pot with an otter on top and a fish, and there's small details of fish around it. It's an incredible work. It would probably be priced at about $28,000 retail, but you have the opportunity to get it for way, way less at auction, and I'm happy to include it in this auction. And it's two-part, of course. So with due to Schechter being so popular right now, we wanted to put this work back in the auction. We had it in our last auction, but we pulled it because we couldn't put it on display. My team just didn't have the time. So we put it out in this auction to make sure people have an opportunity to see Judith's work. This is the vertical work. It was purchased new by the previous owner, and we've had the great opportunity to sell this at this auction. We've worked on the price more too, trying to make it to find a home, but at 43 inches tall, it is a beautiful work by Judith Schechter. Powerful work, better word of saying it. Joe Philip Myers, want to take this one, Ferd?
Sure. Joe Philip Myers was one of maybe 5 artists in America that really started and progressed what was happening with glass in the early years. And his work always had kind of a lyrical feeling. And I've said this several times, but at the time that he was creating his work, most people were looking for happy accidents, which are very easy in glass because it's so colorful and everything. But he would always use cutting by sandblasting or acid etching and make the design that he wanted to. So it was very controlled. And I thought the results were always quite beautiful. And it's always a two-sided piece. So it's kind of fun. It's almost like having two pieces in one.
Yeah, and I've always said the last couple of times at these auctions that I always feel like Joe Philip Myers' work sells under the money because of the historic importance of it, how beautiful they are. It's just something I think everybody should at least keep their eye on.
Yeah.
David Bennett, Amber Mayer. There's been a few of these at auction over time from David Bennett. David Bennett, who's a retired artist, and he was a lawyer before he was an artist. And he went to Corey likes to tell the story where he went to Murano to sweep the floors of Leno's studio to learn how to use glass and learn from the masters before coming back and starting his own work. He did this artwork before he did his acrobatic artwork, and these works are just extremely beautiful, and they have such great substance to them, and they're priced really well. They've come down as of late, so if you're in the market for one of these incredible works by David Bennett, this would be one for you.
Yeah, these you could not keep in the gallery, and they'd be selling for around $20,000. And the idea of the horse, his mother was dying of cancer, and he was a little boy, and so it was so painful for him. He would go out with horses and spend his time there, and really became infatuated, as did Shelley Allen, with horses. And really, I think, developed a sensitivity to be able to make the sculptures as he does because of that.
No, yeah, almost 30 inches wide, by the way, to give you an idea of the substance of the work. David Ricci. Now, this is a incredible work by our friend from the UK. Very tongue-in-cheek, very humorous work. I want someone to buy this and put this right in their bathroom, point it at the loo all the time because it needs some kind of presence like that. Because it is an incredible work by the artist, but it's artwork that challenges in a way. You have to have the right context for it. And I'm sure one of you guys can come up with something really impressive once you buy this. And send me a photo because I gotta know. This is the other Novak Jr. So it's hard to gauge scale in these presentations or not. And people can come and look at these pieces in the vault. But this thing's almost it's 18 and a half inches tall, 19 inches wide. This thing is very, very big. And it has a slight rocker feel to it. and it's priced way under the money. I was looking at the star pricing of it, $500 for this thing, and it is just an incredible work by the same artist that Ferd was talking about earlier. And it's a depth to it because it connects on top. It really has that overall feel of what the artist was trying to do. And if you're looking for a piece to bid on in this auction, this would definitely be one of them I would highly recommend. So another swaparoo, we had that. I'll tell you a quick funny story. So many of you saw the Bubako piece, the big blue one that was on the head of this auction. And Charles knows this story, I think. And we had in this auction, and I took it down to the gas conference when they was here in Detroit back in June for Lucio to look over and make sure there were no issues with the piece. So I took it down there. I left it at Albert Young's studio, locked up in a closet. And then after the gas conference, I asked my people to go down and get it. So we had an employee that worked at the gallery that lived down there, was going to bring it back. So I assumed, sure, it would be back. So whatever. So time goes by, the auction goes up, and my guys can't find the piece. So little detective work, we found out that Lucio himself wanted to take the piece, or not Lucio himself. Lucio himself asked his people in town to take all his work that was in town for the gas conference back to Indiana for storage and whatever. And so they managed to grab our piece. So after a little detective work and some sweating, we found the piece. It's in Indiana. We'll get it back, which I'm not worried about. But we had to swap out a piece, and I had this incredible Chihuly that I just had photographed probably like, I don't know, 4 days ago. It finally came in, and I wanted to put it up. It's a small edition piece from 2002 by the artist, and these things always sell really well. And so I wanted to make sure to incorporate our friend Chihuly in this auction. And I've seen a couple of these in the auction in the past, and they're just beautiful, beautiful pieces by one of the most well-known artists in America, if not the world. And then we get to our old friends, Stanislav Lipinski and Yaroslav Baktova. This is just what do you say for it? It's a favorite color that the artist would make work in. Is that right?
Yes, this was. And sometimes because of commissions and such, they were forced to make more red and blue and green pieces than they would have, I think, if left on their own, because they like the idea of the sculpture being like stone, but then having this internal light. And I mentioned about Horace's work, the same is true with the Lubinskis. When I mentioned it's a little rougher, you look at the edges, you can see that it's a little raw. They left it that way on purpose. And you'll see even lines that allude to the mold that they use to create the piece. But the idea of making stone or gray stone glow really was one of the things that they really enjoyed doing.
Thank you, Ferd. Yeah, big, substantial piece, 39 inches tall, well-known artists, and this is a great opportunity at a great price to get one of their masterpieces at the largest scale. So Harvey Littleton did some vitrographs, right? So every now and then they pop up at auction. They don't get the highest dollar amount, but they're kind of fun to see these things and what else Harvey did. Because originally Harvey was a painter, right, Ferd?
No.
No, a ceramicist, right? Hired it.
Yeah, he worked in ceramics. He worked in glass really early on too. There's a piece from the 40s that he did at Corning as an apprentice because his father worked at Corning and was quite famous. The Littleton melting point is something that's in the literature of glass, and that was his father. But he invented the way of working with this. And this is a glass plate that is etched in, and he used that to print from. And he invited other artists to also do it. And artists like Erwin Eiche and I can't remember who else, but a half a dozen or more artists took advantage of these glass plates in his studio and worked with him on it.
So what's great about this particular edition, it must have been made by, or because I got this from the same gallery, it might have been organized by them or the predecessors. But this is number one. So I'm looking at you, Charles. This is number one of this edition. And I think it's a good substantial piece to have to let people know this is the premier offering of this body of work. And so keep your eyes on this one. So Don Lipinski, this is a piece from the Robinson collection, Jack and Aviva Robinson. This work is actually flipped. So I took the photos from the original pictures I took from their home when it was on display for, I don't know, maybe 25 years on the wall. So we took it and we moved it around a little bit to take the liquid and make it more diffused inside of it. But I didn't really know much about this artist other than he's still working today and he's a wild man. Anything you want to add, Ferd?
He's actually quite a famous artist. He went to Cranbrook, and he's starting to develop his reputation as being a very unusual fella.
Mhm.
Uh, I remember him taking matches and bending them and making little figures out of them, hundreds of them. And the same with he took a phone book and I forget what he did with each page, but he had this thing about doing things again and again and again and again. And this was a series. This piece really changed a lot during the times that the Robinson had it, and he expected that to happen. The interior would alter. And as you said, you shook it up. It's interesting what happened
Right.
with that.
Yeah, it's definitely different. So we have contact with the artist who's still working around for
Well,
installation because we had it's you can see the hooks underneath it right there and there when it's on
he's one of
display.
the few artists that the Corning Museum invited to do installations at their headquarters. And so, yeah, he's still around. Does very few things. I mean, he really marches by his own drummer, but it makes him even more intriguing.
Right. And we've had it here since we got the collection. And just so you know, it's never leaked, never had a problem. Just so you know. All right, moving on. We got a big Rickback. So we had this piece in a previous auction, and the buyer decided not to pay for it. I think they're out of the country or something. So we were kind of out of luck on that. So we put it back at auction. It is an incredibly tall 83-inch work by our friend Rick Beck, who now resides in Hawaii. Reflect. You want to say something, Ferd?
Oh, I just said it's 7 feet tall. It's quite remarkable in the scale of it, which is not unusual in his work. I have hanging in my kitchen a 3 foot spoon.
Yeah, beautiful coloring. Love the tone and work, representing a fantasy tool of some sort. Um, Great substantial piece in this auction, among many others. Davide Salvadore, we have older carved work vessel from early 2000s. The color really doesn't pop in this picture, but there really is some beautiful tones and subtle coloring in this particular sculpture, and the interior of it is white as you peer in. He's mostly well known for his instruments, but early on he did a lot of these vessel sculptures, and they are just beautiful color and tone. This work is just incredible. Wrapping it up here, we got this wall-mounted work by Janusz Valentinowicz. We've had this at auction before, and it is just a beautiful work by the well-known artist who's, again, I think, under the money. A lot of his work is somewhat challenging to enjoy. This particular one is very pleasing. It's called Anna Remembers, like as if a secret garden. It could really enlighten any room. So if you're thinking about this piece, it would be time to jump on it.
Many of you know, but what he does is a reverse painting in the cast piece. So it creates a three-dimensional painting, and so sensitive. He's really a great artist.
Yeah. And he's still working in the same style today. Here's a
Mhm.
detailed shot, just a touch closer. Give you the detail of what Bird was talking about, where he's working on the back side of the glass and the front in this particular piece. And then for those of you who love space and time travel and what's going on in the world, this is a beautiful work by Rick Allen, who also finished a collaboration with Shelley Allen recently, The Giant Octopus, two-part piece. The base of it comes off and it has this metal mount where the glass piece sits on top. Exploring space is what Rick Allen does. He built a giant spacesuit he wears to the fashion shows. He's just overall in love with the idea of traveling through the universe. And this piece is 44 inches tall, so it's much bigger than it looks in this photo. So it's a real great piece by the artist. So beyond that, we have other things online. We're trying to get people to sign up for our glass art fair who don't know us. So we put these up on Live Auctioneers on our website for people who want to sign up for the Glass Coast weekend. So when we get to this kind of part of the auction, we'll probably see people bid or skip through them, but we're just trying to have a little fun and make people come and join us. So again, save your money by bidding on the Masterworks auction site over live auctioneers. The premium is way less, so I would probably do that. If you want to pay by check or wire, we work with that too, and it even drops it down more. The auction starts. We got it's half an hour from now, or half an hour from now, 2:15 at the Masterworks auction site. And here's your reminder where it is. So don't stay on the Zoom. Things gonna happen here. It's you go to our website, click on the Masterworks auction on top there, and then click on the view lots and register to bid. And like I said, we're always looking to get new works for consignment. We have some works lined up for our next few auctions, so join us anytime. And it's great to have you all join me today. If you have any questions or you have something you have in your collection that was similar, we'd love to talk about it. But thank you for joining me today. I'm going to stop recording.